And so I'm coming here at the invitation of your Vice Chancellor to share with you what it is we do at the American University of Nigeria, and hope that what I saw on the website, on your website today, in the last couple of days, has been very impressive. I've seen some very positive things on your website, which shows promise, which shows great leadership, and I'm just hoping that if you find in us a worthy partner, we can use our own exposure, our networks to bring some of the industry players, which I don't know whether you know about them, but we can get a lot of support from the people we know to come to play with you. There are some potential partners that we don't qualify as an American university because we are too young, or because our faculty population doesn't qualify. But you definitely qualify. With this breed of professors, definitely the network, we can open the doors together as partners should be able to help. So, as I was introduced, my name is Julius, and rather than say I'm from Cameroon, I always tell people that I come from a country that competes with Nigeria in football and corruption. That's very easy. Now, this is a good joke. You know, in the 80s, when Nigeria and Cameroon, I mean, you've left us now in football because you just won the Nations Cup, so we are very proud of that. But in the 80s, they really used to compete. And I remember the first time we watched this corruption index, and Cameroon was the most corrupt nation on earth. We were all debating now which nation would beat us. Guess what? The next year, Nigeria became the most corrupt. Common parameter in all the revolutions, when you see how man has progressed, is the ability to build roads to take the product to the marketplace. When they did agriculture, what the Western world did most was that they built roads that took their farm produce to the market. Even today, I still hear people complaining in the 21st century how the things that you do, even as research in your institution, is not known next door because we don't have those roads. Now, when they did industries, the Western world moved from the normal roads, and they decided that we cannot only use the land, because if we use land, we will not be able to reach Africa, we will not be able to reach Australia. They went to the water, the waterways, and they went to the air, and they developed cargo ships and cargo planes. And so, it's still driven by the desire to take the products to the marketplace. After the Industrial Revolution, we moved to the information age. And what has the white man done? He decided to build what we call the information superhighway. In all of this trend, if you watch what has Africa been doing, the farm-to-market roads don't exist. The waterways and the airways are not exploited. And today, we are still not taking advantage of the information superhighway. So that's why the gap between the rich and the poor keeps widening. Because while they see the need to build the road and to always answer to the call of satisfying the customer, we Africa are always asking, what's the need for me? It's like you want to harvest before you reap. You have to pull first before you get the fight. So unfortunately, that's what we are. So in this 21st century, it's truly all about information. One of my friends kept it, he said, you know why, we were in a conference and he said, do you know why the CIO of company sits at the high table with the CEO and the CFO? He said because the CFO controls the physical cash, the CIO controls the virtual cash. That's the power of information today. And it's only successful for those leaders like the CEOs or the vice chancellors or the presidents of the university who understand that the place of ICT in running a university is not in the Department of Computer Science, who have to lecture students on computing. It has to, this is one of the key errors of African, especially African universities. You go to the university, they'll tell you, we have an ICT center. You go there, and it's the dean of the School of Information Technology, or the dean of Computer Science, who's supposed to be the head of that. The dean's job is not. ICT is an enabler of business. If that business is university, ICT should enable it. And so, that department is a department like the Department of Accounting. If you have run a university, the accountant of that university cannot report to the dean of the School of Business and Information. This is the huge misconception that has led, in my opinion, African universities to still be dragging in terms of their deployment and effective use of ICT. But change is a very difficult thing to accept. we've come a long way, and let's just see, especially as it pertains to how academia has changed in terms of accepting technology. In 1815, when paper was introduced, this is one of the quotes that came from the Principals Association in the US. They said students today depend upon paper too much. They don't even know how to write on the slate. You know, we're moving from slate to paper. The Principals Association criticized it. In 1929, ink was introduced. Rural teachers said students today depend upon stored brought ink. They don't even know how to make their own. When they run out of this, they will be able to write words. So, again, the reluctance to accept ink. The first time was the reluctance to accept paper. After that, a few years later, fountain pen that would drop in ink came up. And what the PT Gazette carried an article that said, students today depend upon these expensive fountain pens. So, every time something changed, human nature was to criticize it. And after that, the ballpoint came. After the pen, the ballpoint pen came. And what did some federal teacher in the US say? The ballpoint pen will be the dream of education in our country. So try to imagine that. And then as if that was not bad enough, in 85, when I went to university, calculators had come. And hear what somebody said. Students today depend too much on handheld calculators. That's just to see that over time, every time a global change came or anything that was fundamentally different came, mankind's first reaction is to say move forward. So if you wonder that ICT has come and is completely turning the world inside out, trust me, some people, and sorry to say, some of the most ardent critics, I wouldn't say critics, some of the most difficult people to change and accept ICT, unfortunately, are professors. There are people who have been there before the computers came. They had their PhDs before the computers came. They had their notes for students before the computers came. And they lectured students. By the time computers came, they were professors, a full-grown professor. When you brought computers, we have a joke in my country about a professor who was lecturing. And this student said, excuse me, sir, he made an observation or asked a question. And the professor reluctantly accepted the answer to the question. The next time he was speaking, he was teaching the same student. Excuse me, sir. He was not getting he was getting angry. He said, yes, the student asked a question. He reluctantly answered. The third time the student raised his hand, he said, sit down, my friend. These notes were copied by doctors in this university. None of them complained. The students in this came after the notes. Who are you to That is because the changing times, the professor definitely didn't see them pass by. Of course, we don't see the day pass. But after 1 year, if we doubt that we're getting any older, look at the children, the point was of how far they've come. So basically, that's what we are. And this brings me to what we call, what are the changing paradigms of learning. It has so changed that today, because of ICT, lecturers don't lecture students, we instruct them. Because the body of knowledge is so abundant. I remember when we were in school, especially in primary school, where I come from, the only classroom reader we had was known by the teacher. Maybe that's why we respected them so much. Because if my mother sent me to do something, if I tried to think whether or not I would do it, if she called my teacher's name, I would do it 2 times. Because the teacher was the referred person in the village. Because he was the embodiment of knowledge. Unfortunately, this is not the case today. When my son was 10, we went to school one day. That's when we had just started. I brought internet at home. He was 10. He was so thrilled with how he could find answers that he went to school and proudly told his teacher that, Madam, there's a machine in our house. If you ask me any question, if you give me time to go home, if I come to follow that home. And this teacher thought my son was joking. He said, okay, Mr. Smart Guy, who drew the first world map? And he carefully wrote it down, came back, he would not even take off his uniform. He was rushing straight to the computer. Say, young man, what's this? He said, no, I have an assignment. He went to the machine, of course, did a search, wrote down everything he saw, came and gave the teacher a full name. And it reminded me of one exercise our teacher, when he was teaching us summation of numbers. He said there was a student who was very stubborn. And one day the teacher to calm him down and said, "Come here, my friend. Go and sit down and add the numbers from 1 to 100. And he thought that would keep the student away so that he would give him time to teach. The young man went and wrote, "Okay, I have to add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. He skipped. He said, "I'll have to get to the end and do plus 96 plus 97 plus 99 plus 100. He said, "Wow, when will I finish this?" He reversed the numbers. He said, "So actually 100 plus 99 plus 98. He skipped and then went to 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 1. And then curiously realized that the first number 100 plus 1, that on the 2 series that he had written, would give 101. The next one, 99 plus 2, would give 101. He said, "So wait, this thing that they've asked me to do is actually 101 times 100 divided by 2. So he quickly wrote it and came and gave the teacher the answer. Of course, you can't dismiss him because you don't know the answer. And our teacher told us that his primary school teachers spend the whole holidays to come up with the same answer. So this is exactly what happened with my son and the teacher. Because when the teacher took it, she didn't have the internet. And their school library did not have the information. She wanted to confirm what my son told her. So they would spend next weekend going to the village library to find the information. To cut a long story short, she spent almost 2 weeks finding the information, only to realize that my son was correct. What am I trying? I'm only trying to remind all of us of how much it has changed in such a short time. So, education has truly been transformed, and as I say, the only thing my coming here would make you renowned professors to accept is that this change is real. And this issue of the paradigms of learning really is explained best in this particular paper. Pedagogy has changed. We don't teach children now, we guide them. Because we all learn every day. And the best professors, or the professors to be, those who are coming, because some of you are too late to change. Some of you, no matter what I would say, yes. Some of you say, "Well, that's for my daughter, and that's for my son, that I have passed." So, but the truth is, the paradigms have changed. And today, the satisfaction of the lecturer when you go home is not only how much have I taught my children, how much have I also learned. That should be part of your whole drive. Now, a few observations, just again, I'm reinforcing where we are in the 21st century, just to drive my point. Over 50% of the world's population today is under 30. So when we take decisions and when we are driving research or whatever we're doing, some of these things we need to keep them at the back of our mind. The importance and the impact of what we do. Professor who spoke after, who just delivered that lecture, he said here that if you do, you stay in research for 20, 30 years, and there's nothing you can point your finger to. Because success is not success without a legacy. The true mark of success is a legacy you left behind. And I'm sure whatever we do as professors, we have to be remembering 30% of this world population, 50% are below the age of 30. And in Nigeria, it was. When I was working in Cisco Systems, we did we partnered with the Federal Ministry of Education, and at the time, that was in 2007, they did a survey to see the whereabouts of Nigerian graduates. And they asked them to fill that online survey. Some of them filled it, and they had been out of school for as far back as 10 years. In that survey, the disturbing statistic that came up was that only 20% of the Nigerian graduates were working. And I'm not talking of Nigerian youths, I'm talking of Nigerian graduates. Now, if you have a bubbling economy like Nigeria, where 20% of these graduates are not doing any meaningful job, we have to be very concerned. As a nation, I believe so much in this country. I've spent the last 7 years of my life here. I'm so tended to love to the point that my whole family is here, with the exception of my two daughters who are in the state. My wife is here, my children are all at the University of Nigeria, and we are having the time of our life. We just enjoy Because I see so much potential in Africa and so much potential led by this country called Nigeria. The perception is not good. Yes, but who can change that perception? It's not here. It has to take individual efforts by all of us. But what is interesting in this page I want you to notice is that as of these are the 10 most popular stations in the world. Japan is number 10, Nigeria is number 8. If you look at this statistic, by 2050, Nigeria's population will go to 264 million. Nigeria will not be the 6th most popular station on planet Earth. Actually, sorry, it will not be the 8th, it will be the 6th most popular station. If the trend that we are seeing in youth unemployment, in graduate unemployment, if something is, there's no turnaround, this is a time bomb. Because there's no way. A whole generation is being wiped out of the economic activity because they don't have jobs. And truly it's no fault of their own. Yes, when I speak to youth, I used to do a lot of events where I speak to youth. I try to tell them, I don't know, you can do it yourself. You don't have to, don't blame it on Jonathan. But when I speak at this kind of groups, we have to take part of that responsibility. What is the child's fault that he went to school, finished a degree, and hasn't got a job? I mean, truly, what is his fault? We must share part of that responsibility. So, anyway, in 30 seconds, in 60 seconds, that's 1 minute. And I just checked the other time. A 1 day is made up of 1,440 minutes. And each day, 24 hours, 60, each hour being 60 minutes, is made up of 1,440 seconds. In 60 seconds, that's every minute. These are the activities that happen online. I mean, I can pick a couple of them just to show you. This year it says 168 million emails are sent every minute. Sometimes these pages are important for us to reflect because you start asking yourself, what is your real, true contribution on this planet? Not because you're a professor, not because you're the first degree holder. It's truly how much contribution am I making? At the end of the 24 hours, 1,440 minutes spent. How much of this? See how much of the world is happening. And that's why I shared this slide with you, so that, of course, I'm going to leave this presentation, and maybe those who are really interested in it can borrow it from their departments and have a look at it. But some of that, of course, we can't take all the time to go through some. But it's interesting read that some people take time and say, in 1 minute. Somebody told me that 4 kids are born in Africa every minute. No, it's Nigeria. 4 kids in Nigeria. But 1 in 5 Africans is in Nigeria. So even if it's 4 kids in Africa, then almost a child is born, I think, in Nigeria. Therefore, you can't do that. No, I told you the areas we compete. This one, we don't even start. Nigeria leaves us by miles. And they're only 60 million per year. My country only has to be fixed. We are less than the state of Lagos. But this is the activity that happens in 1 minute. If we look at it, I mean, I'm assuming that this university has emails. So, 168 million emails. Okay, for research purposes, look at 694, almost 700,000 searches are done in every minute. Now, if you need a research team, and your students spend a couple of weeks, then not to say 1 month, without bringing you without bringing you their searches, online searches, whereas 700,000 searches are done every minute. Is it a miracle that at the end of that research is not really valuable? Or somebody has done it somewhere? Because you're not in tune with the rest of the world. And this world has become, in the 21st century, more than ever before, what they truly call a global village. It is now, because everything you're doing, you have to be careful. Otherwise, people are doing, and especially in research, if you have to add to the body of knowledge, then don't do what others are doing. And the only way not to do what others are doing is to constantly know what others are doing in the field. And in Africa, there's a whole database of African research. I see students who go and start research, and they don't even know that these things exist. Sometimes when as I said, even though I'm not a doctor, but I get invited to go for defenses and because again, people value my industry contribution. So sometimes you sit with them and you ask questions. Who else has done this? The guy is still trying to quote you something done 20 years ago. I'm like, but 20 years ago, you know how far we were? Let me just show you how far we've come on global trends, on something like mobile phones and internet use. This is global. In 1990, 20 years between 1990 and 2010, to show you the power of what these mobile phones and internet have done in the world. 11 million people were using the mobile phones in 1990. In 2010, 20 years later, 5.3 billion people. In 1990, it was less than 1%. 76% of the world in 2000. 20 years, it took. Nothing has transformed the world in such speed except illnesses. I have transformed the world with this kind of speed. Now, of course, internet, because of infrastructure requirements, is slower. But in 1990, there were 3 million users in the world. By 2010, there were still 2 billion people. The world is almost 7 billion people. So 29% of the world has started using internet by 2010. Let's get a bit closer to home. Africa, 1990, of course, naturally they shouldn't be anybody. Like the professor said, for the number is too close to zero, that we just say zero. But guess what? Even in Mother Africa, by 2010, there were 525 million people using the internet. 52%. And if you look, and then the internet, sorry, that was mobile phone, and the internet, 167 million people. 15% of Africa by 2010 was already using the internet. And as of this June 2012, last year, the statistics available show that Africa moved in 2011 from 6.2% of the global internet users to 7% as of 30th of June 2012. So this is the place where the potential can come. Because the rest of the world is almost saturated in the use of these things. The only place, if you look at global trends, if the average is low, it's because Africa is not. Once Africa starts coming, that's the only continent that has potential to make a change in the world, is Africa. And so if you look at internet penetration, look at the world average. The world average is 34.3, and Mother Africa is at 15%. That shows where it's just we have so much and so much ground that we can cover. Now, if that was close to home, this is actually at home. In Nigeria, of course, I've tried to forget about statistics in 1990 because those would be resounding zero. But look at mobile phones. About 30,000 lines in 2000 in a 10-year period. From 30,000, what times to what is that? 9 But we moved from 30,000 lines to 85 million Nigerians. All of us here, we have equipped our grandmothers with mobile phones. It's really right, and it gives us joy to hear their voices when we call. That's the power of ICT transforming the world. So, in internet connections, again, we are at 45 billion in 2011, and I like this particular thing for you to notice that between 2010 to 2011, Nigeria's internet connection moved from 14.7 million new users to 45 million. It's growing a growth of over 30 million. But watch that from 31st of December 2011 to June 30th, 2012. There was only 3.4 million users added. This is a very interesting statistic to read. Why have we plateaued so quickly? Because we don't have infrastructure. Unlike mobile phones, where the operators have been able to place antennas everywhere, the same doesn't apply for internet. And that's why we cannot take internet to our villages. That's why the growth in 2012 has later. And until something is done, we wouldn't get the spike again that we need to have. But hey, thanks to Nigeria, we still have the highest number of internet users in Africa. Because that is directly related to the fact that they are the most populous nation in the continent. So, now, what is the key driver of this mobile phone, telephony, and internet use? Is the ability to have fiber. Because for those who are experts in the field, the three ways you could transmit, just like the road the water and the air transmits, as I talked about before. In the internet technology, you have undersea cables, you have cables on land, you have wireless, and you have satellite and radio. So we still have all these formats, but the cheapest and the shortest way to transmit information still comes down to water. That's why having fiber undersea cables landing in your country is a huge plus to your potentials to grow and to develop your ICT infrastructure. Now, for a university or for academic institutions like that, it's not enough to have 1,000 cables land in Lagos. It has to be enough for the cables to come close to your home, which is what we call the last mile. Most universities, everyone they had support. One time when I was working in Cisco, NUC learned something about university network, the National Research Network. It will come to the doorstep of some universities and they have 1 mile, what we call the last mile. It's not necessarily a mile, it's a term for it. It will come 700 meters to some universities, they still can't reach that small mile. Whereas you go to some places where it's 53 kilometers away, they reach it. That's leadership. And that is not your position, because from all indications, you guys are on the right track. But it's important for all of us, at least, to understand how the whole technology works, because Nigeria actually has about 5 operators that have undersea cables landing into this country. Most of them come through Lagos, some in Port Harcourt. But there is, from where you guys are, it's near. If I go to maybe somewhere in the slides, I will show you the cost of internet to the American University of Nigeria. I was in a conference in Accra, and when I showed them that slide, everybody screamed. They said that's almost the cost of internet to the whole of Kenya, all the Kenyan universities. Because we are very far. So, but it's important to have all of this, because again, when people think that the ICT department is a cost center, no, it's a center that services all the university. So when ICT, people must learn to defend the cost and explain in right terms that, yes, I'm only providing this and spending this money because I want to open the channels for you to do your research. Now, the key challenges to ICT integration in tertiary education in Africa have to do with policy and structure. As I said, in most universities, when you go, they still have the tendency to think of ICT not as an enabler for the whole university, but like some department where some children go there and they pay, like a cyber cafe. They go there and they pay and then they check internet. If we really want to move in the university, ICT cannot be a paid resource for students, so they choose whether or not they should access the internet. Then you're asking them whether they should choose whether or not they should go to a library. Because the only library now, the only meaningful library is no more this printed material. It's an electronic library, and I'll show you some statistics. Now, because of the issues of the finance involved, planning is truly important. Unfortunately, after I finish some talks like this and I walk away, most people say, well, why don't we have our own internet issue? Or you say it's slow. Tell you what, the number of students and the number of faculty people have here, if everybody has to use internet, you guys have to have like 200 megabytes per second bandwidth coming here. It's like all the vehicles driving it through into your school at the same time. So if your it's all a question of the bandwidth, and no university has enough bandwidth for all what their needs. The truth is that we happen to be a very small university, where the point of top management support is very key there. We not only have top management support, we have the founders' support to do what we do at the university. That's why they can afford to hire a person like me from a company like Cisco Systems to go work at the American University of Nigeria. So because of their own vision of what technology could do for the university, and I hope that my president is really, they're having value for their money. But again, that's only when it starts making sense. The investment is huge, but it would, some of the questions you asked, and I wrote them down here when we were asking professors, most of the questions, ICT will not solve them, but it will reduce them. When you say there's no communication between the department and the other department, so come on, of course, if that information from the other department was available on your portal, which I checked that was a good portal, all right. Yeah, it could be improved upon, especially the portal is only a portal, but the content management, that's again another area